Hello, welcome to Michelle Reads Books. Today we are looking at The First 4 Years by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is the last in the series of 9 books. I've also done a little bit of research about the book, and this book was published posthumously, like much later than the other books, and that's because the documents were found in among Laura's um, Laura's estate when she passed away. And so it's not that they were not important, because they are, but it's that they were not written in a polished way. They weren't fleshed out. They weren't split into chapters. They are split into years. So there are only 4 chapters, I guess. They're split into the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. And this is the first 4 years of Laura's marriage to Almanzo Wilder. They had a crazy life. This is slightly autobiographical, maybe a touch nicely put. So some of the more serious things are left out so that it's appropriate for children. However, they did not have an easy time of it. So I'll give you a summary and then my opinion at the end. The novel gets its title from a promise Laura made to Almanzo when they became engaged. She did not want to be a farmer, but decided to try farming for 3 years. Laura keeps house, and Almanzo tends the land and the livestock. They go on frequent pony rides together. They also were visited by a group of Native American men at one point, propositioning Laura. She slaps him in the face when he comes close to her, and they eventually leave. At the end of the first year, just as the wheat is ready to harvest, a serious hailstorm destroys the entire crop, which would have made approximately $3,000 and paid off their debts on farm equipment and their house. Faced with mounting debt, Almanzo mortgages the homestead claim. He and Laura have to live on it as a condition of the mortgage. So they rent out their house on the tree claim, and Almanzo builds a small home on the homestead claim. Their daughter Rose is born in December. At the end of the second year, they harvest a fair wheat crop and share the proceeds of the wheat sale with the tree claim's renter, making enough money themselves to pay some smaller debts. In December of the third year, both Laura and Almanzo contract diphtheria, and Almanzo suffers a complication which leaves him permanently impaired physically. The renter decides to leave, and as Almanzo is unable to work both pieces of land, they sell the homestead claim and move back to their first house. Laura invests money in a flock of sheep. The wool repays her initial investment, leaving only enough to pay the interest on their debts. Meanwhile, the wheat and oats grow well, but are totally ruined just before harvest after several days of hot, dry wind. At the end of the third year, although farming has not been a success, Laura and Almanzo agree to continue for 1 more year, a year of grace, in Laura's words, since they have no other prospects, and Almanzo believes they just need 1 good year to turn things around. Unfortunately, hot winds again ruin the next planting of wheats and oats. Their unnamed son is born in August, but dies a few weeks later. Finally, their house is destroyed by a flash fire. Fun times. Also, that was Laura's fault. She takes the blame for that anyway. Almanzo had brought some hay into the house and set it near the fire, and Laura had left the room and didn't see it catch fire, and took the house with it. Yeah, rough times. So this all happened. This all happened in real life. And how do I feel about it? This is a very fast read. It only took me about 2 hours to read. It's really not long at all. But there's just so much that happened. And I feel bad that Laura and Almanzo had such a difficult time beginning their life together. And I see why it was never fleshed into a real book at the end of the day, because I think Laura decided that that wasn't the most uplifting book But the thing is, they had a reasonable life after this, after they moved to Missouri. But in North Dakota, it was just a rough, difficult place to live and try to homestead. It was just very difficult. Subsistence farming is not something that really pays well. And yeah, I guess it's technically not subsistence farming. They were trying for commercial farming, but it just wasn't working. They barely made enough for themselves. So it is kind of interesting to read like the difference in culture of that time and then today. That is literally the Wild West. It's crazy to think about some of the things that happened, like with the Native American men coming up and being like, you my squaw and stuff like that. And Laura's like, don't come near me. And he tries and she slaps him in the face. It's like you didn't have anybody to call. It's not like you could pick up the phone and call the police if somebody was trying to come onto your land and take stuff. It just wasn't a possibility. You had to defend yourself, stuff like that. Also, if you got sick and you had to pay the doctor, then a lot of times you got into debt to the point that you couldn't even really pay it. Yeah, there were all sorts of different things like that. It was really crazy, but at the same time, they were still buying things that they really shouldn't have. So I feel like there was a little bit of, youth's naivete there of being like, no, it'll be fine. Yeah, it wasn't though, was it? Yeah. So, but yeah, like it's a crazy story and a very fast read. If you are interested in finding out what happened, it is interesting, but it's a little bit more on the serious side. I mean, compared to the other Little House books. This is the 9th book in the Little House series and the last one. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this book in the comments below, and happy reading.